analyst with LAFCO. I've been there for about 3 years now. My name is Megan. I'm also an analyst with LAFCO, and I've been with LAFCO for a year.
I think I'm going to try it without the microphone. I feel like I'm doing stand-up when I hold it.
Some good jokes, huh?
Yeah, I have no jokes, but a very dry mouth. Okay, so yeah, my name is Michael Blackman. I'm with the County of San Diego in the Planning and Development Services Department. So I'm a planner there, and I'm in the, if we want to go down even further, Sustainability Division, and then on the Conservation team. So most of my work is managing the Purchase of Agriculture Conservation Easement Program, or PACE. And I also work on the North County MSCP plan with Stephanie Neal, and also the SALC 2.0 project, which is a grant-funded project from the state. So at first I wanted to start off and just kind of give you an idea of where the funding is coming from and kind of the parameters that we are under. So SALC, the name of the project just comes from, that's where the funding's from. So Sustainable Agricultural Lands Conservation Program. This is a state program from the Department of Conservation, and its goal is to support California's greenhouse gas emission reduction goals by making strategic investments to protect agricultural lands from conversion to more HGH intensive uses. So essentially, if they put money in conserving agriculture, then it won't be converted into other, houses, industrial, that emit more greenhouse gases. So we kind of have that to work with. And the second part, I think I'm just legally obligated to have that up there. So I wanted to highlight there's 3 types of grants that we can apply for. So there's planning grants, which is what this project is funded for. So that's support the development of local and regional land use policies, economic development strategies, and plans to protect critical agricultural land. So that's a planning grant. You could also apply for an acquisition grant, which we also did. So through the PACE program, we got funding, I think it's about $1.4 million for a conservation easement in Palma Valley, which we're currently working on. And then they also have capacity grants. So that's to fund acquisition grant programs. So the capacity grants can't be used for the planning grants, which would be nice. So those are the 3 types of planning grants. This one we applied with LAFCO as the lead and Planning and Development Services to get funding for a planning grant. And just wanted to highlight who's eligible for this, just so you get a sense of the program. So obviously cities, counties, tribes, LAFCOs, Council of Government, groundwater sustainability agencies, regional transportation planning agencies, special districts with land use authority. So I just highlight that, like, producers can't just apply to SALC, which is a bummer. Okay, and then we kind of touched on it earlier. So there was the first planning grant was through LAFCO and the RCDs, and that report that Joel was talking about was an outcome of this. Unfortunately, we didn't ask him, but we had to change his name to SALC 1.0. That's all we refer to it as. But that's just to say that, okay, this is the second iteration. This is another planning grant that we're building off of the first one. So that one was mapping agricultural lands, producer needs assessment, inventory policies at local, regional, and state level, and then the 10 policy recommendations that he spoke to that's in that document. So along with moving those 10 policy recommendations forward in other programs that we have through other funding also, we wanted to focus this grant on one of the policy recommendations, which was to provide more quantitative data on the costs of producing in San Diego County. So use that data to make good policy decisions. And then another component of that is to have a strategic plan focusing on using those costs. Okay, what are some solutions to those costs? Policy solutions, incentives, strategies that municipalities and the county can do to help alleviate some of those costs and in turn preventing the conversion of ag lands to other uses. So for SALC 2.0, that's pretty much what I just said. So how are we going to do this? And then, so I just want to say this is very much in development. So this goes till, actually got an amendment, so it's not fall 2025, it's actually spring 2026. That's just working with the strategic plan. There's so much collaboration that needs to be done, so many different pieces that instead of just rushing it out, we're going to extend it for the board of supervisors also. So there's a market analysis that takes into account all ag operations, and there's a gap analysis where we focus on 4 crops: avocado, lemon, tomatoes, and strawberries. And then we have the strategic plan component that I spoke about, and then we have a final report which will go to the board of supervisors and the LAFCO planning commission. Oh, and outreach.
Yeah, and I can share a little bit more about the first part of this grant program, which is the market analysis. And so the market analysis is essentially with the goal of trying to preserve agriculture in the region, trying to understand what's the market looking like, how expensive is it to farm in San Diego County, what are the biggest expenses that farmers are facing. And part 1 of this report included exploring how many San Diego farms and agricultural acres will be lost if current trends continue unabated. It's currently showing that about 18 acres are lost per day, and about, I believe it was 1 farm is lost every 3.5 days, was the data that we found. So I'm just trying to collect this market data to provide to policymakers in the region in support of better policies to assist producers. Part 2 was on the cost of farming in San Diego County, and part 3 was on profits, so how profitable are San Diego County farms. And we conducted this report with Agricultural Impact Associates, our 2 consultants who have combined 40 years of experience in agricultural economics. So some of our market analysis findings I've already mentioned. Found that about 18 acres of farmland per day and 1 farm every 3.5 days are lost in San Diego County. We found that the biggest expenses were property taxes and labor in 2022 for San Diego County farmers, with the average 2022 labor cost coming in at $283,000, while most farm expenses have risen beyond inflation. And we've also found that the 2022 average profit margin came in about 13%, which is half of the suggested threshold for financial sufficiency and sustainability. In this graph here, it shows the forecasted number of San Diego County crop farms, and we extended this and made projections from the data that we had in 2022 until 2027. You can see here that the number of farms were increasing until 2007 and thereafter decreasing due in part to the financial crash. And projected number of 2,653 farms in 2027. And the forecasted number of agricultural acres in San Diego County have been showing to be on a consistent trend downwards. While mapping the average per farm expenses for 2022 showed that labor came in first at about $283,000, while miscellaneous agricultural services came in at $107,000. So a lot of this data was provided from producers in San Diego County as well. Some of you have been present for our prior SALC outreach efforts and offered up anonymous data on your expenses as well using Schedule F forms.
So, quick question on that last slide.
Yeah.
On the earlier slide, you had showed labor and property taxes as the two critical expenses, and yet on that slide, it shows taxes on property way down at the bottom there.
Yeah.
Should that be a lot higher, I guess?
Yeah,
I guess
so
I'm puzzled by why taxes on property were highlighted as a major expense, and yet they're rather insignificant in this.
yeah, maybe I meant to say rent. I mean that would be more likely. Yeah,
Okay,
paying
just
for.
curious.
Yeah, sorry about that. Thanks for
No,
catching that though.
yeah.
Yeah.
Clarification, is this all farming or is this the four focus crops?
Yeah, this is for all farm operations. So
Can
that's
you
why you
break-
see, that's why you see the water, which is included in utilities. It doesn't
Yeah, I
seem
mean,
to
that's
be. Yeah,
obvious. Can you,
yeah, all.
No, because I would mention the red color.
Mhm. Yeah, so this is where they just looked at all ag operations.
do you have a subset of the data on the four focus crops? Because that'd be very interesting to see.
Yes.
You do.
We do, but also I noticed that in our avocado study for the gap analysis specifically, we've noted that water is the #1 cost, with harvesting coming in second and chemicals coming in third. So that might make a little more sense.
Just got a question back. Yeah, all agriculture, you didn't include any animal agriculture, correct?
I'm pretty
No,
sure
that's-
grazing is included.
The acres looked not quite right there.
Yeah, I could check on it and make sure and double
And,
check.
and the other thing was combined operations, animal and crop farming.
Yeah, I'm
Does
pretty
that
sure.
include gophers and ground
throughout.
squirrels?
Yeah. The marketing on that is just tough.
And then yeah, I just want to say that all of the, can I send out the links to these after the meeting?
Oh,
The
sure.
reports? Yeah, so I'll send out the links to the market analysis and the gap analysis, and then, yeah, I'll check on the grazing.
Numbers look the way.
Yeah, so with that, I'll turn to Michaela for discussion on the second part of this grant, which was the gap analysis.
Yeah, so the market analysis kind of set us up for the gap analysis, which helped us to explore the profitability of San Diego County crop production, and specifically exploring how profitable production is at the individual farm level as well as the county-wide level. So this report identifies the gap in costs on return on investment between marginal farms and economically sustainable farms. And it includes supplemental information on 4 specific crops, which Michael mentioned earlier, including avocados, tomatoes, strawberries, and lemons, and provides a foundation for future projects and policy change. So the resources that we used to obtain the information for the study included the UC Davis cost and return studies to serve as the foundation for each crop. We also used the County of San Diego Crop Statistics and Annual Report, which is produced by the Ag Weights and Measures team at the county. We use USDA Census of Ag data for San Diego, and specifically 2022 data. And then also we use data provided directly by producers through anonymous submission of their Schedule F tax forms, including farm income and expenses. And that was coming from 10 total submissions. So if you're in this room and you did that, thank you so much. As well as 7 total individual farm visits to collect additional data via direct observation and interviews. So based on the information gained using these resources, a few key outcomes of the analysis are on the screen and specific to just avocados, and include, so assuming $6,419 per acre production costs in a scenario where avocados yielded 5,900 pounds per acre that sold for $1.65 per pound. Avocados generated a 2022 net return per acre of $3,316 above total costs. At that yield level, the price needed to break even on operating costs was 92 cents per pound, And to break even based on total costs, the required price was $1.09 per pound. So, and as many of you know in the room, avocado costs and returns vary dramatically across locations, in years, and also water costs in particular exert a powerful influence on financial performance. So some of these numbers may not look correct to you. But in addition to the information gathered on each of the 4 crops, our consultant created an Excel-based tool called the Agricultural Profitability Assessment Tool, or AgPAT, which allows users to run scenarios that explore how adjustments to costs for water, labor, and more than a dozen other expenses, as well as yields and prices for a given commodity, will affect profitability or your returns per acre for an individual farm, as well as on the countywide level based on the total acreage of a given crop. So if you want to check this tool out, there is a QR code on the screen, which can also be found on our website.
Who developed that tool?
The Agricultural Impact Associates. They're based out of Monterey County.
Monterey.
Have they done that for other crops too, or?
Yeah, so
Or that
just
applies
for the
to all
4
crops?
focal crops, so the avocados, lemons, tomatoes, and strawberries. But yeah, with that, I'm gonna pass it back to Michael to talk about the feedback that we've received from these 2 analyses, as well as next steps.
Thank you. So in April, we released the reports for public review. We just wanted to make sure that these are actually the experiences that producers were having on the ground. So we got a lot of good feedback. We met with the California Avocado Commission about the data, and I wanted to just kind of highlight some of them here. So a lot of it was centered around water, obviously. So a lot of it was, well, actually, let's back up a little bit. Project-wide, we've been hearing about water costs, availability, and efficiency. Same with SALC 1.0. We've also heard about imports, driving down your costs. So a need for some marketing and branding, and then also technical and policy support. So with the release of the reports, we also got feedback regarding water costs that they seem like they should be higher. And if you read the report, there is a whole discussion on water. Just some of the assumptions is that it is countywide, so depending on if you have a well, what water district you're in, that those will fluctuate. So that's kind of why they created the AgPAT tool, so you could punch in your own prices for water. Also that year, 2022, was especially good prices for avocado. So those prices might reflect that. And also some comments that the land costs were underestimated for avocados, since it was, the assumption was that most avocado producers own their land, so they didn't quite factor in avocado farmers that lease their land. So all that feedback will be in the final report, just to highlight maybe some of the flaws of the data that was collected, but in the report they have a discussion on all the assumptions, so that will be covered. I think as far as what we've been hearing also is that producers need help now. It's stressing that, some of these long-term strategies will help in the long run, but the underlying causes for the lack of profitability, they're gonna need help right now. And so that's kind of like one of the challenges with this project, is it is a planning, long-term planning and short-term planning, so it's just providing some of those incentives now is going to be critical in just keeping those producers afloat. So in May we held a event at the County of San Diego. It was called the Forum for Cultivating Solutions. So this was specifically to get input onto that strategic plan. So what solutions can we come up with to alleviate some of these costs and make producers in San Diego County more profitable. So I think I don't want to go over all of the feedback. We have a community input summary from all the feedback. It's on our website, so I'll send that link out. We kind of broke it up into 4 breakout sessions. So this is kind of, it's hard to summarize it, but these are kind of like the topics hit on in the policy. So water access, policy reform, farm worker housing, definitely permitting and regulatory streamlining. And then the long-term land policy and classification, what Joel hit at, is that the County of San Diego does not have a agricultural specific land use policy or plan. So it's kind of like every few years when this kind of stuff gets brought up, it's almost like they're starting from scratch. There's no like guiding light for where, what are the most vulnerable ag lands, where should we be focused our funding. So I think that is a huge item that we need to hit on in the strategic plan. As far as policy, land, we had access to land and capital, fallow land and crop suitability, conservation easements, and then support as infrastructure, both soft infrastructure like organizationally and actually hard structure, like is there any available buildings that the county owns that could be used to come up with maybe like a food hub or distribution center or something like that. So profitability, as far as what the County of San Diego can do to make producers more profitable, it probably will have to be that streamlining to make, we heard a lot about direct to consumer sales. So for example, like modifying the zoning code to make it easier for a farm stand, specifically like a shipping container or something, and signage. So how can we make it easier for producers to sell directly to consumers? How to address labor shortages, obviously program improvements that we have, and crop support and innovation. So these are all not just one organization to do, so it's going to be a lot of collaboration with UCCE and the RCDs to kind of push these forward. So like I touched on marketing, branding, and certification. So how do we combat the price of imports as a county? So we have a policy that's local food procurement, that could be an avenue. Increase infrastructure and distribution to kind of reduce the cost of the middleman. So these are all kind of things we're pursuing. This is all the feedback we got. So now is the fun part of creating a strategic plan, and then figuring out implementation costs, time frame, who's going to lead the effort on each of these. So there's all this going through. So that's kind of where we're at now. I would love to present the strategic actions at a future meeting if that's possible. So once we get the strategic plan, it'll go out for public review again, and I'll make sure I notify the group when that happens, and then you make comments and we address the feedback, and then we have the final report which incorporates everything, and then that also goes out for public review, and then we take it to the Board of Supervisors and LAFCO Commission. So that is kind of the project. I'm happy to answer any other questions. Yeah.
When you do all your analyses and et cetera, do you collaborate with any other areas of the state? Like the Central Valley is just dying.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard you mention UC Davis doing work for you. I mean,
They
must
use
cover
the UC Davis cost studies as like the basis of their model, and then adjust it into San
But the
Diego.
bottom line is, if the farmer's not making money to survive, then he's gonna give up the farm, okay?
Exactly,
And
yeah.
I don't care what you do,
Mhm.
farmers don't work for minimum wage, all right, that's not what they're there for.
It's less than that. It's illegal.
So,
I'd like to have that.
I never hear enough about the grape industry talked about. When I moved to Escondido, I've been here 52 years. We had lemons, limes, grapefruits, valencias, navels, avocados, grapes. I don't know what else. I think now we have avocados and grapes. That's it. And we're running out of avocados. And I like avocados.
Mexico, Peru, something else.
Yeah, well, we're doing the best practice research for the strategic plan is focusing on a lot of other California regions.
That's
but
why
also
this
to-
water presentation is so darn important for the growers,
Yeah,
because that's our most important commodity. Next to air, water is, we don't have air and water, we're dead.
Wine. Don't add wine to the list.
Michael, I think what Ed's saying is that now that you've done this study and it's almost completed, I think the thing that most growers want to ask is, okay, how are you going to help us? And what's the next step? Because you can do all these studies and have all this information, and even as you mentioned, we're losing people daily.
yeah.
Wouldn't it be prudent, I think, to be able to partner with Escondido, who have worked to get the water, which comes up on every study you have, to be able to work with a group like EGAP, to be able to look at Escondido they have a lot of open space that, they don't use, to be able to put together a comprehensive program that could offer us these benefits, or what the plan may be, and use Escondido as a model to be able to ramp up the productivity and the profitability in Escondido. One of the reasons why I felt so compelled to get this meeting together was we're all getting older, all the grove owners. And
Hush your mouth.
there's nobody, except me, and there's nobody to step in. Skip has family members that are interested in his grove. We have some other folks that may be in the process of purchasing a grove that they may have some ownership in right now, but nobody in their right mind would step into an avocado grove business. And we've got a lot of smart people. Dr. Craig Kalaji is probably first and foremost in line if we're ever going to have that person in the county that would be that ag liaison that could help people. He knows agriculture forwards and backwards, and he'll tell you that most growers have a second job, and it makes absolutely no sense. And I ask growers all the time, how was it? Oh, we had a pretty good year in avocados. I go, oh, really? Did you pay yourself a salary? Well, no. Now, what kind of a business would you look at that you don't even have a salary? And insurance. Where is that? So what I'd like to be able to do today when we leave here is to say, look, LAFCO and the county has done a wonderful job on putting together this information. We know where the pressure points are. We know where the triggers are. Now let's take somebody who's probably in the best position of anybody in the county, that being Escondido, and let's hook up with that city government and make something happen here.
Yeah, totally agree.
I'd like to just comment on the overall presentation. I think there's real risk in diluting the extremists that particularly avocado growers are in by lumping everyone together. All ag. I would go back and stratify the risk at the most at-risk growers. And the EGAP project is fantastic. Not only is the water inexpensive, it's solving other problems. It's also much better quality water than what we're getting in the rest of the county. So we absolutely need to, in the presentation to the decision makers, say this group is most at risk. There's a reason why no lemons and citrus are left. And we've lost 1.6 million avocado trees since 2007, according to the university. And now with the current rate hikes from the Water Authority, over the next 4 years, 65%, it's inevitable. The only people that are going to survive, in my opinion, are EGAP customers, or if you have a well that happens to have good water. I just talked to a grower this week, 27 acres in the Rainbow District, Bonsall. They went 1,000 feet on a well, and the chlorides are 200, and he's not skilled enough. He used that for 2 weeks. I said, "Your treat, that's fatal." You know, but people are going to that expense. That's probably a $50,000 well minimum, and then SDG need to pump it because water is so damn expensive, and that's in Rainbow that detached. And even with detachment, where's the LAFCO? I was involved with that. The one misstep we had was not having a referee between the Water Authority and the two agencies. The Water Authority sued everybody. Rainbow's rates actually went up. PSAR customers in Rainbow got a rate increase after detachment. And so we really need to focus on the at-risk for the decision makers. The other thing that's missing here, we run into all the time, is Prop 218, the cost of service for water. If we don't carve out a policy change, this is a huge lift to say ag is important and water is a critical component, and have a separate price for water beyond PSAR. There's even discussions now, Rainbow and Fallbrook are approaching Metropolitan to try and have it, no pun intended, some kind of policy flow downhill.
Yeah.
But we're in deep kimchi.
Yeah, that's really good feedback. We'll be sure in the final report to highlight for each crop, maybe break it out like you said, the percentage of ag operations that are avocado.
Yeah, and
Just
I
specifically
maybe
highlight
offline, Michaela, we can review these numbers. There's no way $1.65 is representative for avocados, even if you're organic. And we did have one good year, but we need a 3-year look or something.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised if CAC focused on that.
Yeah, they provided us.
Yeah, because they're so great at marketing. And,
Yeah.
When was the last time you saw California avocado showcased compared to Mexico or anybody else?
Well, that was a great
Okay,
talk.
yeah. I'll be
And-
sure to send out the links, and then I run this email address, so any questions?
Anything, yeah, send
anything
it
at
all to me and then I'll get it out to everybody. And just to put a ribbon on it, I don't know if you folks got a copy of it, I'll give you a copy, but this is the letter from the California Avocado Commission, Ken Melvin. And he said right here, the solution for avocado growers in the city of Escondido is long-term agricultural recycled water subsidy program. And that's exactly, nobody wants to talk subsidy, we never used to say it, but you can call it cost deferment, cost allocation, whatever you want. But if Escondido is not willing to get our costs down, our meter costs, our water costs, even below what they are now, then we're not sustainable. And Escondido then has a huge problem after putting in all these pipes, $65 million filtration plant. Where are they going to send the water? We're not going to be here. So I'll give you this,
Yeah, please do.
but I think that was a terrific presentation.
Well done.